In some cases, it was being used for storage, which was something else that was important, right? So planning for storage, making sure that we use it to the fullest extent possible. And then the last thing I'll share with you is just input of all of the stakeholders to include IT, transportation, facilities, really needs to be taken into account, because the maintenance of those the buildings proved to be far more costly than what they had anticipated. So it was a little bit of a difficult situation when they were asked, so did it result in cost savings? And it might have offered slight or break even, but then was very much more expensive to maintain. So just some things that I wanted to share with the building committee going forward. Thanks.
Thanks, Derek. I attended that session also with Derek, and it's my second story of a building that I've attended. The information I get from those is really invaluable. You get to see the space, you get to talk with the designers, you get to talk with the administration and teachers and things like that. And I had really the same concerns as Derek, and we were split into different groups. The one thing I did, I made 3 comments, and they were very similar to Derek's. Of the HVAC system was proprietary. So the staff couldn't actually go out and buy a part and fix it. So that repair cost and the maintenance costs were astronomical. Another thing was that when the building was completed and passing it along to facilities, that facilities wasn't really comfortable with that process and didn't have a good grasp of the systems, which is a huge, it just makes me think that we have to make sure that our facilities are involved throughout to make sure that that handoff is going to be seamless and that they have a good say in what happens during the process. The space planning too, there was a lot of swing spacing, which I agree with, that it's good to have swing spaces at different areas because you can adapt different learning environments and grab space for maybe 1 year or 1 quarter, but then use it for another classroom. But I didn't like that. There was a lot of times, and we were in 2 different groups, that they mentioned, we don't use this space. You know, here's an OT and PT room, but it's not used as an OT and PT room. Or here's a big conference room that they expected with in their like psychology department with all their counselors. But they didn't use that space as a meeting room because it wasn't private. So they have this big open space with a TV on the wall and nobody's in it. It's just a hallway. So things like that bothered me as well. And so we asked quite a few questions ourselves about their visioning process. And I think there's a lot of times in our meetings, people ask about the visioning process. And this is something when the designer comes in, how we pull in all the stakeholders, right? We're going to pull in RMLD, we're going to pull in facilities, the teachers, the taxpayers, this committee, just and I'm not mentioning everybody, and I'm sorry, but every single group has to have a say in what this building is going to look like and what our needs are. And we have to make sure that we are, and I asked the designer this question on Friday, how do you make sure that you're asking the right question to the teachers, to the people who are utilizing the building, and how learning happens? And they, you know, they said this is part of this visioning process. There's an educational plan. We have consultants on staff where they bring in consultants to do that. So that's something that we're definitely going to be really, for me, it's a focus that this committee needs to really make sure we're having. People should walk through the end of this process and feel like there was nothing they didn't have the opportunity to say. So it was a long ride. It was a long day, but it was really beneficial. So I thank Derek for coming too. Anybody else? Okay, thank you, everyone. We'll keep
Carla. I'm sorry, Carla.
No, go ahead.
Something that you said triggered a couple of thoughts that I'll just add, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So one was what was the comment that struck me as being telling was touring with the director of facilities, who lamented that he was unable to work on the HVAC machines on the roof anymore, whereas they used to be able to do it before. They were now unable to touch the equipment because it was computerized, and so they didn't have the expertise or the ability to work on it, and so were forced to call the company with each and every service call. So I thought that was that might box us into a bit of a corner. And that the other piece that has to do with that is just we want to present our constituents with I really think it has to be a cost-effective, balanced solution, right? They have to be made aware of all the alternatives if they're going to be on the hook for decades with regard to payment, and we want to make sure we've done our best to really inform them of all the alternatives and what the costing of that life cycle of particular machinery is. Some of that technology, the newer technology, doesn't last the same way other technologies that are a little more tried and proven, tried and true do. Thanks, Carla.
Welcome. This school too they combined 3 elementary schools and 1 middle school. So this is a big deal for this community. And it was considered one building, but they had a corridor that they shared the cafeteria, or they shared the cooking part of the cafeteria, the kitchen part. They shared health services, they shared the gym space. So
Carla, what town and school was this?
it was in East Hampton.
East Hampton.
East Hampton. It was Mountain View School in East Hampton. Great. And we'll continue with that with that reports if anybody has anything to say in future meetings. It'll be a good time to share it out. So we're going to get to the heart of our meeting for the request for services. I think the most important thing that we need to remember about this piece of the process is that we are not allowed to, and this is different from what our process with the OPM selection. We as a committee are not allowed to rank or pre-rank any of these firms. So we can we'll talk about them one by one, and people can give their feedback on it. But as a group, we're not going to rank, right? That's something that the MSBA is really adamant about and part of their process. So the ranking will happen on the 7th when we're at the designer review committee. And the ranking will be done with Fidel and Tom and I and the rest of the MSBA committee.
You'll each have your own ranking, right?
We will be able to rank first, second, and third, giving 3 points, 2 points, and 1 point. They'll compilate it right during the meeting, and by the end, we will have a ranking of 1, 2, and 3, possibly 4. And then we will decide who's going to move on to the interview phase, which will happen on the 21st. But they're adamant that they want that to happen in that meeting. But we definitely need to hear from this committee and your thoughts on it. So if we want to...
Carla, if I could just interject here, just a quick, I think it's important for everybody to be able to give you their information. But I would caution us about having a lot of back and forth discussions. It's really more taking in the information. If there's a clarification we can do. And to your point, you can individually rank them on your own going into the meeting, but ultimately the ranking is going to happen in the MSBA meeting. Yes.
So Mike, if we start with each, like we start with LBA and then just have a discussion on it, that's fine?
I wouldn't necessarily go that far. I thought if people had questions or comments that aren't the 3 voting members, they should certainly share their information. If you want to go one at a time, you can. I didn't know if we were going to get into that level, but absolutely, we want to make sure everybody is heard.
Mike, can I ask a quick question back? Is why can't we go into any more detail? Is that just, is that an MSBA thing or? You know,
So the MSBA Designer Selection Board is who's supposed to be selecting this. We have 3 members on that board or on that committee. It's not supposed to be decided outside of that committee. So that's direction from the MSBA. So if you have questions, if you have comments, if you want to provide information to the 3 members so that they can, you know, help form their opinions, and I think that's absolutely appropriate. But having long discussions about who we prefer or who we would like, or that would probably be deemed inappropriate from the MSBA standpoint.
Yes, so in my opinion, is maybe how we phrase it and how we talk about it, right? We don't want to spoil the conversation, if you will, right? So there's no ranking allowed before the meeting on November 7th.
So maybe just for context then, should we just be speaking in generalities and not have it be specific to any one response? Just as in our discussion, if we like that someone's worked on an MSBA elementary school, and then the representatives can infer from there. Does Mike, does that comply with what we need to do, or is that going in the opposite direction?
No, I think you can do that. And honestly, I think if it's not a back and forth discussion, I mean, if each person, for example, wanted to go and say, this is my 1, this is my 2, this is my 3, this is my 4, and these are the reasons, you can do that, but we don't want to have a back and forth that, you know, that you're going back and forth on, well, I like this one. Oh, well, I didn't notice that. Like, that's the fine line there, that the individuals that aren't Tom or Fidel or Carla can really say whatever you want. We just don't want to have a lot of back and forth.
No debates.
And no votes.
So I guess we'll just open it up and let people discuss. And if
So in full disclosure, I'm working on a project right now with LBA, working very closely with them. So I have a clear conflict there. So I don't want to get into too much detail. Looking at the firms, I think all the firms are capable of doing this project. I think they're all excellent firms. The project I'm doing with LBA is going extremely well. I think they're definitely qualified. If anything, I think there might be one firm that has a little bit less experience than the other 3, might be Cube 3 or Cube 4, or have in front of me, but they seem to have a little less experience than the other 3 respondents. Kind of my broad brush takeaway.
Studio G.
Studio G, thank you.
Yeah.
For Studio G. Yeah, they had a little less MSBA based project experience.
Can I
please,
I would say just from reading these that is it LBA really stood out to me as well. And I agree, Studio G seems the least experienced in the whole thing, but at any rate, they all look, I mean, Feingold has been around for a very long time, so they certainly have done a lot of elementary schools and could certainly do well for us. And I don't know RDA as well, but
RDA did, I noticed they did Coolidge.
oh, did they?
Yeah,
Oh, interesting.
they seem to have a lot of elementary school work as well. Schools. Anyone else? Mike, if you wanted to share also, we ended up with 4 submissions. We had probably another 3 companies attend the walkthrough, the Killam walkthrough.
Probably actually more than that, actually. We did have a good turnout on the walkthrough. In talking with several designers that I'm working with currently or that I've worked with in the past, a couple of them have noted that the MSBA does try and provide a bit of parity. They try and allow people to kind of get their turn, if you will. And there was three different firms, Doran Whittier, AI3, and sorry, I can't think of who the third one, but there was 3 that all just Flansburgh that just recently won projects with the MSBA, and they did not bid or did not submit, assuming that the MSBA wouldn't give them serious consideration because they had just recently been awarded projects.
Great, thank you. Because I think on some level, we were expecting more submissions. That gives a good, at least it gives us an explanation. People were saying that it's a good job. It's just that people have a lot of work, which I guess is a good thing.
I actually had just a couple of questions.
Sure.
I don't know if this is something that we can just, one specifically, and looking at the, so is it Laval, on that one, LVA. So on theirs, they mentioned one of their schools was the Oyster River Middle School. Is that in Durham, New Hampshire, or in Mass? Because it says both on the it's on page 43 in their response.
Durham, Mass. Yep.
It's Durham, Mass.
Yeah.
It's not New Hampshire. Okay.
No, Durham, Mass. Because I wrote down that too, that was a net zero, a new net zero energy facility. Oh, but you know what? Here it says,
There's both listed there. I just wasn't sure which.
you're right. It says, the project says it's Durham, Mass. And then the superintendent schools
Durham, New Hampshire.
says, yep, Oyster River Middle School in
And
Durham,
when
New
I,
Hampshire.
and when I Googled Oyster River, it looked like it was New Hampshire, but I'm just curious if that's just something that we.
Anyone else? I know that, you know, LBA and Feingold were, you know, larger, 65 employees, 42. You know, RDA, the Raymond Design, was smaller, 16 employees, and Studio G was 21 employees as well. Just looking from in terms of size.
So, is it okay to ask Mike a question?
Sure.
Mike, out of the respondents, has Colliers worked with any of any of the respondents?
I would say Colliers has probably worked with all of them. I personally have worked with Studio G and LVA. I worked tangentially with Feingold. They had done the master plan in Concord where I was working. They did not end up doing the middle school project, which I was doing, but they did do the master plan. And RDA, I've had a number of colleagues that have worked with them in the past. I think somebody said it earlier. I think you've got four good firms here. It's trying to find out who's the best firm.
Thanks, Mike.
And when I look at this too, and I know this is going to be something that MSBA will look to us as a district to make sure that our project objectives that we set forth in the proposal, sorry, I'm always going to say bid proposal because that's my background, in the proposal, that they achieve those objectives. We want to make sure that they understood the goals that we gave them, that they've done lots of schoolwork before, and that they have what we need to have a successful project. Before the meeting, Fidel sent out to everybody a checklist that Colliers went through to make sure that each company satisfied all the requirements in the document. And they also have done and are completing by tomorrow a checklist of all the references that they've submitted. So, and so far they've all come back positive as of Friday. So Mike, if anything is different from that, or Mike or Susanna, feel free to speak up on that. So we have 4 viable companies too for this.
Yep, so we did reach out to some remaining references that haven't responded yet. We did get a few more today. Again, they're all good references. We have not received a single negative or, even neutral. So all 4 are looking good, and I will send an updated reference sheet by tomorrow.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Just a quick question. Is it normal to have so many that have invalid phone numbers when they put references in? It's a little frustrating. Yeah.
You would think, right?
That they would have checked maybe.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, so that happens a lot, which is surprising, but if you do the reference checks enough, people change their numbers, they retire, they move. I've called people where it's a kid picking up the phone. So, so there's always a multitude of reasons.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. We'll move along if nobody has anything else. So in terms of the process, we will meet with the MSBA on the 7th. It's virtual, unfortunately. I wish it was in person, but we'll meet with them and come up with our short list and then decide who will move on to the interview process, which will happen on the 21st. And then we'll hear, I think it was like a half an hour. I sat in on the Lexington, Fidel and I sat in on the Lexington process, which was really interesting because it was the high school I went to. And it was interesting to see the designers and their presentations. They were pretty in-depth presentations. They ended up with a really good designer. So, and it was good to see how the process went too, right?
So that's the process that happens on the 21st, where you sat on is what we will have on the 21st.
We sat in on both. So we sat in on the shortlist one for them, where they had multiple submissions, and then they came up with their shortlist and voted on it. And then 2 weeks later, they came back and the designers did presentations, and then anybody could ask them questions. And then it was voted on. And by the end of that meeting, they have a designer, and then it goes back to the district to negotiate with the designer. So within a few days, Fidel's so good at it, we'll have a designer after the 21st.
So, and then, so just since you did the Lexington one, so what we have on the 7th, is that just us, or do we just have a time slot and then and for MSBA to do us?
Yeah.
Or are we the only ones on the 7th and the 20th? Same question for the 21st.
So on the 7th, we are the only ones. If they're gonna add anybody, they'll add them on to like the app after us. That starts at 8:30 and anybody's welcome. We can send out that link if anybody wants to register to go on and see it. And we will have a dry run the day before on the 6th. And then we'll be back on the 21st, and they may have something later on the 21st, but we'll be first at 8:30. Yeah.
So any of us can view that interview on the 7th?
Yeah, and we can, we can post that to probably to the website if people want to, like the link maybe to the website so people can go on and.
Pre-register for it. It's not a live Zoom link.
I was gonna say, I think you have to pre-register, yes.
You do. There's a link on the MSBA website. We'll definitely send it to the committee that people can get on and register for it, and then they'll send you a Zoom link. That they mute everybody, but it's interesting to watch. Okay. So moving right along, we were going to discuss the project website. So I know that there are a lot of towns out there that have a project website. It will be important for us to have a place for people to go to be able to see the project and see where we're at and clearly and easily find the information that they want. So we did talk to, we had a meeting with Colliers and they gave us their 3 recommendations. I can go through it quickly and then if anybody wants to jump in. The first one was to have the town create and run the website. Colliers and the designer will always give us the information, but we as a committee and them as people working on our project, we can't recommend that. We're moving towards having the taxpayers vote on this project. So we can't go out there and recommend and encourage people to go forth with this project. If there is a Yes for Reading group that is part of our group, though that group can advocate for the project. Colliers and whoever our designer will give us the information that we need to show people why the project is going to be so wonderful. So we want a nice website that people can go to just to find the information that they need. So one recommendation is to have the town run it. The second one is to hire a PR firm to design and maintain the website and potentially do PR for it if we so desire. And the third is to make it the responsibility almost of either Colliers or the designer to do that. All 3 of them, well, all 3 of them would obviously have a cost associated with them. So we're going to have more information, especially when the designer gets on board. But I don't know if we wanted to have like a discussion as to what the committee thought, right? And we don't have numbers, right? Potentially for hiring a PR firm, it could be anywhere between $35,000 and $50,000 to have them do that. We need to decide if we want the PR firm portion of it or if we can do that ourselves.
So Carla, if I can, that value I think we had put out there is to do a full PR program, not just a website, if you will. I think for a website, it would be much less from the PR firm. But we are working on adjusting an RFS or request for services to go out to a couple of individual PR firms to get some values for just the website option. We can also get the full-blown option if you're interested.
So Fidel, how are we capable for option 1?
Yeah.
I think for option 1, it would look just like our website, like the finance committee website, right?
Yep.
Where it's basically, it's our page and we throw some content into it. That that's something that we could do, without big effort. I think if the committee is looking for like a separate website, killamschool.org or whatever it is, we don't have that capacity, right? They don't, if the committee is okay with having a page on our website that's for the project, that would be realistic.
And so, and I guess this is maybe a broader question for more folks, maybe Mike, you can weigh on this too, but, so the first one for you, Fidel, is, so, but can and could the town on the town website direct, like, at least, kind of, update that, there's a new information on, and so that we're trafficking people to the site, and so that, so if we do it kind of within the town kind of framework, that we can, even people that are coming into the town website for other purposes could see that, and so you're directing more people there. I think personally, I like that, in that someone doesn't have to remember another site to go and, from a, killam.org or whatever, to be able to do it. If it's kind of within people that are going to be looking at the town of Reading website anyways, then you can direct them over there. That sounds, kind of palpable.
So I think no matter what you did, if you did a standalone website, if you did it through the town, or if you did it through the district, you're going to have the town and district having links to the website. So if it's a town website, the district's going to link to the town page. If it's a district website, the town's going to link to the district page. And if it was a standalone, they'd both link. You're also going to have probably a Facebook group. And to your question about what can we do, you can say everything except for solicit people to vote yes, basically. Or, so you can say we need it, that the school is in desperate need of this. You can state the fact, but you can't basically say, we want you to vote yes, or we want you to vote no. Basically, that's the limitation.
And Mike, from your experience, and probably just your most recent experience, has there been your kind of a preference as far as what towns have done? Hiring a PR firm or just handling it in-house?
I would say most of the towns I've worked with in the past have done it in-house. We have done it for a couple of towns, and we have had a couple that have used PR, but the majority do it in-house. The ones that have done the PR or asked us to do it are more recent projects, so maybe it's trending towards asking for assistance. Yeah.
So I'll kind of finish off. Given that we've just done it with, like the town has done, kind of revamped the website, and it just seems, from a cost perspective, if we have the capabilities of doing it, I think that money's better spent, in possibly in other places, but that's at least my view, is more trying to look at it, and not making some additional expense if we don't necessarily need it. If we didn't have the experience, then I'd probably feel differently.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's a question of, do we really think we need something above and beyond a page on the town website? I'm not sure that we do. And, there is definitely an expense there.
Is this intended to be an informational website only, not back and forwards?
Just a place to
information.
provide information. Right.
No feedback, in other words.
We could have like a frequently asked questions. We could make up some questions,
Those two are very different, I think, in terms of magnitude and what they might generate. Informational website is probably much simpler.
Right. Certainly if people wanted to ask a question.
Yeah, I'm sure you can direct them. I'm sure that, on the site, you can, like if you need further information or request information, you can have it directed. You can have some directions on it. Right. Call Carla, something like that.
Yeah.
Provide her personal number on there. I think that's.
Yeah, right. Cell number.
I don't think we need a PR firm. I think if we can, you know, if we could go into town meeting and get a unanimous vote with no questions, we did something right. So maybe we can repeat that for the next phase.
It might be good to go to some of these websites and just see what they look like. I think the worst thing is, and the town website has this, you get on and you can't find where you want to go. So it'd be really helpful
That's a
to
great.
see what others have done, because you don't want people to go on the website and not find what they need to know.
And that's a great idea, Nancy, that we can use that as a template
Yeah.
for us. I think that's a fantastic idea. Mike, is that something that you can help with as far as giving us some recent ones that we could look at?
Mike had to jump off, but yes, we do have one. It's the Whitman School, but I can send that over. They have a pretty great website.
That'd be great. Do you know if that was done in-house or was that done by a PR firm?
So that was done by us in-house by someone who had recently left our firm. And then our in-house marketing person had picked it up and she is maintaining it, but now she's on maternity leave.
Okay, thanks.
It is WMSproject.org.
The few that I have looked at have been so nice and clear, and just, you can easily just find the information. And I agree with you, Nancy, we can't have people aggravated looking for information. We want them happy and just easily finding the information.
Yeah, it might be interesting to see, to go to the Whitman either district site or the town site.
And check it.
See if they point you in that direction too, because I think that's the only thing we want to make sure that
I bet if we Google any one of these
Yeah.
projects that
that are in flight, you know, from
Yeah.
a designer perspective, I think it's a good
how
point.
they list 4 projects, I bet if we went and Googled any of these, we'd find a website and kind of see.
Should be
from
good.
there. And we'll be talking about, once the designer comes on board, we can have a discussion with them too. We
Yeah,
just want to
absolutely.
get people thinking
Yeah.
about it, because once they get on board, we're gonna start with all of our community meetings and
Yeah.
getting the information out there and all that stuff. We want to meet people at the senior center and, you know, have people come into the school and different things like that. The PTOs and stuff like that.
Yep.
Okay. Great. Anyone else? Okay. Thank you, everybody. Okay, so we're going to approve the, so I will entertain a motion to approve the 8/21 meeting minutes.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Those were in our packet. Does anybody need a second to look at them? Pretty good. Pretty good.
Good.
Looks
Right,
good.
okay, we'll do a roll call. Sarah,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Kirk,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Pat,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Carla, yes. Thank you, everyone. And future agenda items and next meeting dates. If anybody has any, you know, if during your weeks you're thinking of, geez, we should be talking about this, zip me or Fidel an email. We definitely want to hear what people have to say. And we're thinking that our next meeting will be on 12/4. So that will be by then, by the 21st, we will have a company that a designer that we're going to be negotiating with. We're thinking about the 27th of November, but that is quite possibly our 4th town meeting. So we figured we push it to December 4th. So if we can tentatively put that in for the 7 o'clock on December 4th.
Pickleball day. 11/27 is gonna be pickleball day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe everybody can come dressed in their pickleballs.
There we go. That's it. Yeah.
It starts on 13.
All right. Perfect. Anything else? No? Great. I'll entertain a motion
So moved.
to adjourn. Okay, we'll do a roll call. Sarah,
Yes.
John, Kirk,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Pat,
Yes.
Nancy.
Yes.
Charlie, yes. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.